Hi, and welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker broadcast. My guest this week is Louis Adkins from Labs Media, and I wanted to get Louis onto the podcast because Louis is still at uni, he's still graduating. He'll talk about this on the podcast, but he's got clear plans for his future. He's got a clear vision for his future. He has gone down the whole Google ad route, niche in mortgage brokers, so running Google ads for mortgage brokers and a lot more than that as well, which we'll talk about on the podcast. So, but he's coming on my feed a lot on LinkedIn. I'm seeing his face a lot. I'm seeing his posts a lot. I'm seeing his comments a lot. So I thought it'd be great to get him onto the podcast and really explore him a little bit more, talk about what he's doing, why he's doing it, and get into detail about what he's really offering and what the future looks like as well for him and his business. So yeah, let's just get Louis onto the podcast. So welcome onto the podcast, Louis. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Craig. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good. We had a brief chat before we hit record today, and sounds like we both had a very productive day so far. So hopefully
Yeah.
the podcast will continue.
Yeah. First, I want to say, by the way, thank you very much for inviting me on and having me on the podcast. I appreciate that. I've been seeing it through my LinkedIn feed, and I thought I'd love to go on that. So here I am. So thank you very much for that.
No problem, no, not at all. And thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast and letting me have a bit of a free reign, as my guests always do, in terms of trusting me with no agenda, going off on a tangent and everything else. But I just thought it'd be great to obviously let you introduce yourself properly in a second. But you do come up on my feed now in terms of from what you do. So I just thought it made sense for you to get onto the podcast and just explore, just delve a little bit more than the face on LinkedIn, on social media that I'm seeing. And I know that there's some brokers that you're working with now. I know one or two of the brokers that you're working with. So I thought, let's just get Louis onto the podcast. Let's explore a little bit more and find out what's going on and the reasons why. So yeah, thanks for agreeing to do this. So first of all, do you want to give a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a uni student. I'm sat here in my uni room that you can see behind me. So I'm in my final year at uni. But last year I started the marketing agency that most people will probably know about if they see me on LinkedIn or have seen me on LinkedIn, because that's all I talk about. So I started that last year, and I've been doing that since. It's kind of, I originally started it as a side thing that I do whilst my degree, but slowly it's become the degree that's become the side thing. But I won't that's not something I kind of advertise to my mum and dad, because I don't think they would be
Yeah.
over the moon to hear that. But yeah.
Yeah, you do
Um,
realize
so,
podcast is going out to the world, though, don't you, Louis? So they are going to sort of.
yeah, I know. But there you go. It's out there now, so they can. I'll get a phone call from them after.
Yeah. So, do we just first thing is like in terms of obviously the uni you've talked about it's your final year with that there, and
Mhm.
was it what you're doing at uni? Is that anything to do with marketing, anything to do with mortgages, finance, anything like that?
No, so it's a funny question, because I think when I say that I'm a uni student, people expect me to be a marketing student, but I do geography, so completely unrelated, and not related to finance really either. The way I kind of started being interested in marketing and started doing that was because I've always just been very, very businessman and wanted to always start my own thing, quite entrepreneurial. From when I was younger, I always had tried to set up little businesses, like selling things to my neighbors or whatever it was. Or I used to have Nerf guns, if you know what they are, and I used to try and
Okay, yeah.
trade them. Used to trade them with my friends and try and sell them on eBay and stuff like that. Always was trying to start my own little things up, and I think I used to struggle quite a lot before the marketing agency with coming up with an idea that didn't require a lot of money up front. One of the ideas I had a couple of years ago was to do an app, but obviously you need thousands and thousands of pounds to start an app, and I don't have any money. So I then one day heard about the marketing agency, and the part that appealed most to me is the video I saw on YouTube, he was saying that you just need to put a lot of time into it and learn the skills, and then just start messaging people. And once you get your first client, you can go up from there. So I was like, I can do that. And then it was quite cool as well, because it allowed me to get involved with all aspects of a business rather than just starting my own, if that makes sense. I could I could work for a mortgage broker if I wanted to, or I could work for a financial planner or something. I could work with different types of businesses as well, which I thought was very cool.
No, definitely. And it makes it, like, say, in terms of it's got, I think, was from your point of view, giving yourself a little bit of the background in terms of your entrepreneurial ideas, and I do know what Nerf guns are because my son makes me feel quite old now, because when you sort of say that, my son, he's also called Louis, funny enough as well. He's 18 and on an apprenticeship at the moment, so I do know what I spent many a time with Nerf guns, so I do know from the dad side of things what Nerf guns are, not from the junior side. So definitely. So how's uni going? First of all, you geography. When do you graduate? When does that finish?
Yeah, so it's going quite well actually. I graduate this summer, so not long left to go. But it's great. I absolutely love uni. Especially when I first started, the first year was fantastic because everyone's in the same boat. You've got a big group of friends. You go out, you have fun. That was really good. But what I love about uni is you surprisingly you do have quite a lot of free time, even though people sometimes think that you're studying all the time, but you do actually have quite a lot of free time. And that's why I started a business, because I had a lot of free time and I was like, I just want to do something else in that free time that's productive. So, but yeah, uni's going very well. It's going good.
Good. Well, that's now covered your parents' aspect of it, that you are going to graduate and finish your geography degree and then the rest of it. So we just tick that box. I just wanted to clarify that first of all before we move on. So marketing then, obviously, I know you've explained a little bit around the reasons why, but what is it that really within marketing that inspired you to get into that and not do geography or business or anything else that you sort of...
Yeah, so I suppose the marketing aspect was really just when I first heard about it, what appealed to me is that it was something that I could just start learning about and try and get a client with just my time rather than having to have a lot of money up front. Because I just quite liked the idea of that, of having something that I could actually start and work on and maybe actually do some real work for somebody. So I quite like the idea of that. And I suppose once I started actually doing the marketing and learning more about it, I just really liked the idea of trying to convince people to buy something from you, or trying to convince people to use your service. I just quite liked the idea of that. And then it kind of tied into other things that I've done, because obviously if you're content marketing is quite popular now, and video especially. So editing that. When I went back in the Nerf gun days, I wanted to have a YouTube channel to talk about Nerf guns. So I used to edit my videos back then. So I knew how to edit videos. So I've got my podcast now and I can edit the videos because I learned it when I was like 14. So some of the skills I knew I could use, and I quite liked that as well.
No, definitely. I think I say, and using it to your advantage as well. You said there about podcasts. You've got your own podcast as well?
Yeah. So I started that in the summer, recording myself and being in front of a camera. I don't mind it when it's like talking like we are now, but when I first started it, talking to a camera, having a camera there and just speaking about something, I felt very awkward about the whole situation. I didn't really like it. So, but I always wanted to do it. I just, like, whenever I turn the camera on, I just go, oh no, I'm not going to do it. But over the summer, I just got the urge to try it and stick with it. So I started over the summer, and it's just, I've heard a lot of the business people that I follow, like Stephen Bartlett or Alex Hormozy. They're like two big people that I follow. They all say that they wished they'd started documenting their journey or when they started. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm starting my business now, then maybe I'll start documenting whatever happens to me, because it'd be quite cool to look back on in 5 years and 10 years to see where I've got to. So that's what it is, really. It's not so much like a podcast where I interview people, although I do want to interview people. It's just about what I'm doing and what I've done in that week with my business, and then maybe some lessons that I've learned or some habits that I've built that have been quite useful. I pass it on.
Which is great. It is amazing, because that is something that I feel, particularly mortgage brokers, I know we've got to keep it on point within the industry, and I think it's something that I go on quite a lot about with mortgage brokers, because it's interesting that you're doing this now at such, like you say, at a point when actually you're not really two-footed. I know you probably are to a certain extent, but do you know what I mean? And I mean that in the most respectful way. You're not two-footed in terms of what you're doing that now. So you are reflecting every single week in terms of what you're doing, and by the means of podcast videos and things like that, which I think is just so important as a mortgage broker to do that. I do journal, I do review daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. I do reflect on terms of what I've done, what I've achieved, but mine's not visual or audio. And mine's very much like written down kind of thing, because I think
Mhm.
I like to write down because I think it just makes me talking about it. I can get carried away into inspiration, and like I can get sort of too not, and I'm thinking more about what I'm saying rather than actually the point what I'm saying, rather than thinking about that. So I tend to find that writing down and reviewing in my journal and writing down what the challenges that I've had and what I've learned during the day, during the week, just helps me to sort of grow as an individual and grow my business and just enjoy doing what I'm enjoying, the learning aspect of it and developing aspect, because we are all developing and learning every single day.
Yeah. That's the big thing for me as well. Relating it back to kind of the brokers, the way that I use my podcast is kind of, it gives me a way to, because you always have these thoughts, I think, then they're scattered around in your brain, and then when you actually have to write them down like you do, or if I'm sat in front of the camera, I actually have to say them, then you can normally have to organize them and put them together. So when you're actually saying things you to the camera, for me, I actually get a bit more of a plan or an idea of what I'm going to do, and or what I've done and why I've done it, and then as a result what I'm going to do in the future. So it can help me develop more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, like I say, I think it's just important to do that and have that part of your process, whether that's like you doing it video, audio, me writing it down. I think it's just important to reflect in terms of what you're doing. So
Mhm.
also marketing, I think is always it's quite funny because this is a mortgage broker broadcast and it's aimed at mortgage brokers, and it's mortgage brokers that listen and subscribe to the podcast.
Mhm.
And there's things you're talking about there about getting in front of the camera, sitting there looking at the lens, that does scare people. And I talk to brokers all the time that are scared by that whole thing. Whereas you're embracing to a certain extent with regards to what you're doing, because it's good to hear that you are getting in front of the camera, because there's a lot of people within marketing that maybe not get in front of the camera or don't feel comfortable with that, but are good at talking about what people should be doing, where actually you're good at
Mhm.
talking about what people should be doing, but then you're also doing that yourself.
Yeah, I think as well, a lot of people struggle, don't they, to get in front of the camera because they're nervous about what people might think. I was nervous when I started my podcast that all my friends would take the mick out of me, all my family would take the mick out of me, and they did. Don't get me wrong. The second I started it, all of them took the mick out of me. But I realized one thing I heard, which was quite nice about it, is that when you first start, whatever you're doing, if it's videos on social media or podcasting, I quite like this. It made me feel much more comfortable. Is that when you start and you're doing your video, it's not going to be the best videos in the world, so probably no one's going to watch them. So if you're nervous about putting yourself out in front of people, well, you're not really putting yourself out in front of that many people, because not many people are going to watch your videos, and then the people are only going to start watching your videos as you get better at them, and by the time you're getting better, you're probably going to feel comfortable anyway. And I quite liked that. That made me feel much better about the whole thing.
It's a good way to think about it, because I think, like you say, you're absolutely right. People, with the again, with total respect, people don't care. Like if you're like, people aren't going to, your friends, family, you might get ribbed a little bit by them seeing your first one, but they'll soon get bored of ribbing you as well. So they, like, I know my friends are sort of, I've seen you again on social media, and it's just sort of, and the ribbon's gone now. It's been far too long to do that.
Yeah,
But you've got to
exactly.
get over that barrier. If you're just stopping from doing something because you're scared of that, people taking the mickey out of you or getting that negative feedback, then the quicker you get over that, you've got to get over that hurdle. At some stage, that hurdle, you've got to get over that. So, and you've got over that now, and you, like you say, it's not, you're building better and better videos and doing better content as you're doing it, but you've got to get over that first step. So
Yeah.
so what? So we've talked in terms of marketing and what you sort of said, and obviously you enjoy doing that, which a lot of brokers don't enjoy the marketing aspect of it. They don't want to do it, or they want somebody to
Mhm.
do it for them, or they've not even bought funnily enough, I'm in conversation today with somebody sort of, I don't even want to be on social media. Everybody's telling me I want to be on social media, but I don't want to be on there. But that's okay. If you're not, that's fine. If that's comfortable in your space and your business is okay with doing it. So everybody's got their own sort of thoughts around content marketing. But for you, you're thinking, why mortgage? Like, I'm going to ask you the question: why mortgage brokers? Because mortgages is the most boring thing in the world. There probably is more boring things, but to be fair, mortgages, debt, the rest. Like, who wants to be talking about mortgages? So why would you want to get into the world of
Yeah.
mortgages?
It's a good question, because I suppose people sometimes think, like, how did someone who's doing geography at uni fall into doing marketing for mortgage brokers? And I sometimes ask myself that as well. But when I first started the marketing business, the video that I was watching that I talked about earlier, the person was like, when you're going to start your marketing business, pick a niche, go after a niche, because then it becomes much easier to differentiate yourself. And it's the same advice that I hear people say for mortgage brokers as well, actually.
Yeah.
And he said, pick a niche. So my first plan was, okay, I'll go and do it for gyms, because I go to the gym and I like gyms. So I'll go and do it for gyms. But then slowly my best mate's dad found out that I was doing this business, and he kind of got in touch and was like, oh, I'm a bridging loan broker. Didn't know what that was. And he was like, I need some leads. And I heard you're doing Google ads. Would you like to do some for me? And I was like, yeah, great. I've got my first client. I'll happily do it. So then I had to learn what a bridging loan broker was, which I had no idea at the time. Learned what that was, and then started doing some Google ads for him. And then once I started doing the Google ads, we got a few results there. Obviously not the best results, because I'd never done it before. But as I started doing it, I thought there are finance brokers was who I was looking for. And I was looking, when I was researching it, I was looking at videos on how to market for bridging brokers, and a lot of the mortgage marketing came up because the two are related. And I started to think I could probably do it for more people like this, because he didn't enjoy marketing. He would use the phrase, I'm not tech savvy, I don't like social media or anything like that. And I thought I could probably do it for a few more people like this. And that's just initially how I got into it, was I was doing it for a bridging broker. And then I thought, rather than doing gyms, who everyone's doing it for anyway, I could maybe try and do it for more people like my mate's dad, and go into mortgage brokers and things like that. And then that's, basically how I ended up doing it. And then I started going after bridging brokers, but I realized that there were then more mortgage brokers. So I thought I'll go after the mortgage brokers.
So let's stop the podcast right there. Great guest so far. Thank you, Louis, for being a great guest so far. We will have more on Louis shortly, but now it's the regular clip with Lee Rowland and the Mortgage Broker Bulletin.
Thank you, Craig, and welcome to the 7th edition of the Mortgage Broker Bulletin. The word on everyone's lips this week is inflation. Now, luckily, it fell from 6.7 to 4.6%, and there was a lot of talk about this in the media. Now, let's not drill down into why inflation fell. Let's just enjoy the moment that it gave us some positivity throughout the market for us as brokers to embrace. I read one article which said Halifax and HSBC might have a price war. I've seen quite a few videos of people getting really positive about rates coming down around 4%, which is amazing. But we've got to remember, this is all could, should, would. We've just got to wait and see and act quickly when it happens. The good news about all this is it's raising awareness for us as brokers, for our products and our clients, as we're educating them more through social media, to get in touch with us as early as possible, or a new inquiry where we can then investigate, create a relationship, and when the time is right, work with our client. Have a great week. Onwards, upwards and forwards. Speak soon.
Thanks for that, Lee. Thanks for the informative and up-to-date week in terms of from the Mortgage Broker Bulletin point of view. Let's now get back into the podcast with Louis. We all fall into financial services. I know you've fallen into marketing financial services, but everyone that sort of, most people that I know that are in financial services, mortgage brokers, they never sat down with the careers officer at school or wherever that case may be and thought, you know what, I'm going to be a mortgage broker, because nobody wants, that's just not something that people want to do when a certain age is looking at what they're going to sort of choose to do for the rest of their life. But for you, sort of like when you look at it in terms of you've got loads of different choices, industries and things like that. When you sort of mentioned there in terms of, so it's not just content marketing that you're doing, you are niching then down into, so you're niching into mortgage broking, but you're niching into Google Ads for mortgage brokers. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. So I actually don't do content marketing for mortgage brokers. I do the content marketing purely for myself. The marketing that I do for mortgage brokers is Google Ads or Facebook ads based, because that's just what I did for the first person, and I learned that. I've learned how to do the others, but I'm doing those for myself, and I like the kind of model and the system that I've learned and taught myself and got better at since doing the work with the bridging broker. But yeah, Google Ads and Facebook ads is primarily my focus.
Okay. And I think is that, because again, even more horror on brokers' faces when you start talking about Google Ads, because they're thinking other people that you either get somebody to do Google Ads for you, or you just don't do it at all. I think it's there's very few brokers that I know that will actually do Google Ads themselves, because it's just we've got enough to worry about with mortgages, protection, and all the rest of it, rather than sort of worrying about keywords and things like that as well. So it is certainly drilling down even further in terms of the niche of what you're doing. Was Google Ads always part of the plan? Is that sort of always something that interested you the most?
Yeah, so when I started the marketing agency, it was going to be Facebook or Google Ads based. That's what I was going to, it was always going to be that kind of marketing that I would be doing. And then I thought that I could eventually branch out to other things as I learned more about it, got bigger. But yeah, it was always Facebook and Google Ads. But I know what you're saying, that people, they either feel like they should get someone to do it for them or just not do it at all. Because if they're going to do it themselves, it's a lot to do, and also it's a confusing, like Google set it up sometimes in confusing ways, and you have to learn different things, and there's all parts to it that if you're worrying about mortgages and protection and you've got your clients to deal with, and you've got to post on your social media if that's what you're doing as well, then you don't want to be worrying about learning Google Ads and trying to get them as good as possible, because it's just too much to juggle. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. So most people then get somebody else to do it for them, but at the time and still now, marketing for financial services on Google, there's some like verifications you have to go through, and the other ad agencies out there, they don't really focus on financial services for whoever, and sometimes you have to approach things differently depending on who you're marketing for. So I decided to just do the Google Ads for the mortgage brokers and learn how to do it really well for mortgage brokers, essentially.
I think that's a good point. I think, like you say, is people don't want to do it or bury their head in the sand thinking they're never going to do it and don't want to learn, because, like I said, there is so much to learn about the Google Ads and the different terminology that mortgage brokers don't like terminology when it's outside of the industry. They love terminology when it's in the industry, but they certainly don't like it when it's not their norm. So Google Ads is sort of often sort of said that there's very few people that I know that are within the industry that just do Google Ads for mortgage brokers. Like you said, there's quite a lot of people that I know that do just Google Ads generally and do content marketing generally and don't really drill down into the mortgage broker space. But then I'm guessing there is a need from an industry point of view for somebody like you that just really does get Google Ads, Facebook ads in the mortgage broker space.
Yeah. My whole goal has been, since starting it, it's obviously changed over time, but what I've always wanted, what I'm still striving for now, is to just have a system which I would use Google Ads for, because I think they're one of the best ways of getting leads if you've never got any. If you haven't got any testimonials, or if you're just starting out, I think they're a great way to start, or Facebook ads as well. My kind of whole goal is to build this system where a mortgage broker comes to me and say, I've got no leads, I'm trying to get something, and then I can put them in, get them to Google Ads, build out their website, and get the email marketing working so that they're always booking appointments and things, and then filling their calendar for the next 30 days. That's the goal that I'm always trying to do. I'm trying to build this system, and I think Google Ads is the best way of getting people into that system to get a mortgage, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. So you thinking about it from not only from a front end lead generation point of view, but through a process as well, like you say, appointment booking, things like that. Is that you looking at the whole funnel going through rather than just at the front end, the lead coming in?
Yeah, exactly. So I say in my LinkedIn, I talk about funnels a lot, because I think the other problem with if you're buying leads is that they haven't engaged with your business and I think there's always problems with buying leads. But I look at it from the whole getting the lead to actually then becoming someone you can do it for, because what's the point in getting a lead if they're not going to go through? Then that, it doesn't mean anything. I always say you don't want the lead, you want the customer that's going to get a mortgage with you. So I try and help with the whole process. So I'll get the Google Ads to find the people, and when they fill in the lead form, they'll fill in the lead form, and then I'll send them emails and text messages to make them to book a Zoom appointment. And then when they book their Zoom appointment, if they for some reason didn't show up or they forgot, well, then I'll send them more emails and more text messages so they show up with an appointment with you in the next couple of days. I'm always trying to build this system where I get the people in, and then I actually get them to be a mortgage. Get them a mortgage at the end, and help the whole way, not just giving you leads that only 10% of them call you or something.
Okay. And so when you look at, you've been doing this a little while now, when you've sort of decided niche in this industry, Google Ads, Facebook Ads, the route that you're going down, like, how is it going so far for you as a business owner, sort of doing this for mortgage brokers? How you find what's going well? What's challenges have you faced so far?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge I've definitely had starting was getting the first people to work with, and having a bit of, I suppose, was building a bit of credibility for myself, because I'm just this 20-year-old in uni who comes out of nowhere and hasn't been a mortgage advisor, or hasn't, or prior to the bridging broker had never done ads before. So the first thing I struggled with was trying to build credibility, but that's why I started posting a lot on LinkedIn, and that's why I started following people like you, and I also started following like Ash Borland and Matthew Chapman and David Miles, and trying to talk to them, and Gary Waters as well, trying to just I've met Ash and those people all on calls, and just been asking them for tips and things about how to get into the industry, commenting on their posts and stuff. So the first thing I had to do was build credibility. So I would just post on LinkedIn and engage with the creators out there in the mortgage world, who, if they commented on my post, it might build me a little bit of credibility. That's the first thing I did. And then the other way I have tried to make it easier for myself to get clients is, obviously, if I say to somebody, I've just learned Google Ads and I've just found out about mortgage industries, pay me this much a month and I'll do it for you. That's very risky. So I do it on a performance model, so that the risk is reversed onto me. I found that is another good way.
Yeah, I think that's, like I said, that is a novel way that is very different to every other asset. Like, in terms of marketing, Google Ad provider out there is a very different way of looking at it from your own point of view. But that's great that you've adapted. I love the fact that you've sort of understood that and done something about it then for your business, to think, do you know what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and look at and base myself on performance, which a lot of industry individuals don't do that. It is very much around, you're going to pay me this, and this is what I'm going to sort of do for you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great way of doing it. What you mentioned an end there, obviously, there's names that we all recognise, but because David Miles is doing, so you've spoke to David Miles, because David Miles is, I would say, the Google ad guru from a financial service point of view. He's been on my podcast for like numerous times. He's been doing what he's doing. I know brokers that work with him that have real good success in terms of, but he doesn't, his is very much around the coaching aspect of doing it, the Google ad point of view, rather than doing it like him paying him to do your Google ads for you. So I think is that something that works? Is that a sort of marriage that could happen where David's sort of coaching aspect, but then you're learning, like you're doing the aspect of it?
Yeah, so I've spoken to David a few times recently. He's really, really nice. He's very nice with me as well, helping me where he can, sort of thing. But it's something that we've been talking about, maybe trying to find a way of working together, because he does all the coaching aspects for the people who want to learn how to do it themselves, and then obviously there are the people who don't want to do it themselves, who want to get somebody to do it for them. But for the people who have to do it for them, it's a lot more work. So obviously that means sometimes it's more expensive, and the people who have just started can't often afford to just pay someone to do it for them straight away. And so they have to start learning how to do it themselves. And this is what David does. He helps the people learn how to do it themselves so they can get a few people in. And then when they get a few people in, then they can maybe come to get him to do it for them, or get me to do it for them. So we're trying to find a way of us maybe, working together on something so that we can coach and then do it for everybody once we've coached them up to a certain amount of leads or business.
Great. Sounds like a great dream team sort of working together with putting on Dave's authority already. So which is good. Like I say, I think that's the thing is with, funny enough, a recent podcast of this podcast where we talked about help and support and things like that. Like for you coming in to the industry, totally new. I think, like I say, it's a great thing that you are getting welcomed, you are getting help and support from people within the industry to help you learn and grow, because there is certainly a need within, and people must recognize that there's certainly a need for your niche in terms of what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. So that's great.
Yeah, I've had a lot of help and support, especially from Ash Borland. He has been massively helpful. He meets with me once a month to just check up on how I'm doing, give me any advice. He's had me on his podcast, which should come out soon, I imagine. But yeah, he's been great help to me as well. And everyone has. Even you, when I first spoke to you, you were just trying to give me some advice about starting out in the industry, and you let me ask you any questions. Anyone that I've messaged on LinkedIn just to ask them a few questions about the industry, Matt Chapman, he let me call him. Gary Waters let me call him and ask him any questions. Everyone's been very, very supportive, and it's very nice, very nice.
And that's the thing of the industry, is like, because I've talked about before, like the thing with it, Louis, is that there is so many sole traders, one-man bands, people that are maybe part of a firm that don't get help and support from a lead point of view, or help and support with doing content, Google ads, things like that. Or people are based from home most of the time as well. So it can be a very, very lonely sort of role. So there is, to have that help and support, I think it's just a must within the industry. And I think that's, people recognize that, the right people recognize that, to then thinking, actually, somebody that's coming in non-industry but wants to help the industry grow in the right way, then should be welcomed with open arms and help and support as much as you possibly can be. So Google Ads, is it as difficult as people's mindset is with regards to learning, understanding, and keeping up to date with it?
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying that anybody can learn and eventually run a successful Google Ads campaign with the right, with sitting down and with all the resources that are out there and actually spending the time to learn it. They could do it. It'll just take a lot of time. But the other thing with Google Ads is that, with like any skill, it's trial and error. But with Google Ads, you're going to be spending your money to trial and error your ads. So when you first start, you're going to lose a lot of money and not be very good at it, which is never a nice thing, because then it's very unmotivating. When you're trying to learn something and you're just rubbish at it and you're also losing money at it, it's not very nice. But anybody could go out and learn how to do it if they have the time and they have some money that they are understanding that it's not going to get them 10 leads for £50 or something, which would be amazing. But it's not going to do that. You'll probably maybe get 1 or 2 leads in your first time trying it, and then you probably you'd be lucky to break even, but you'll learn and then you'll get really good, and then you'll be able to build this. If you have this skill of Google Ads, you'll be able to build something that can always get you leads into your business, which I think is very valuable.
It's just like I say, it goes back to time, doesn't it? And I think that's the thing with most brokers, most financial advisors, and people within the industry, is that time is not something that most people have. So they can, but if they do spend that time, then obviously they're neglecting another aspect of the business, which they know that can generate income. No matter what the hour they're putting in, they know that will generate X amount of pounds of income. Whereas doing this is not something that can guarantee you. Do you know, like learning about it and putting that time and effort in to learn about Google Ads and how it works and all the things behind it. You can learn all those things, but are you best spending time doing that, or are you best spending time within your business, growing your business, looking at your clients and making sure that you're getting increasing your average pound per client kind of thing, rather than actually worrying about this? Whereas then if you spend more time and effort on the pound per client, working with somebody like you that's an expert in this, then will save you money anyway, because you'll not be wasting time, but you'll be generating more income from a business point of view. So I'm always sort of keen on learning a certain aspect of it yourself, but also as well getting something that sort of, that's what
Yeah.
brokers are for at the end of the day. Like, clients could ultimately do their own mortgage and go around all the different lenders and find the best deal and the rest of it. The information is out there, like you say, but people need brokers because brokers save people time and people money. You're doing the same thing with regards to Google Ads. For brokers, you are saving them time and you are saving them money as well from that aspect. So
Yeah, that's very true. It's yeah. I always say the thing is, if you're going to learn Google Ads and you put in £1,000 for the first month or something to go and get it, well, would it be worth, maybe rather than spending that £1,000 and not getting very good results, would it be worth spending a bit more and getting somebody else who can get you good results? That you got to weigh up what's going to work for you. But going back to Google Ads just in general, I think they're a very good thing for brokers to use because they're easy to track, and they are, you can get results in quickly, and unlike maybe posting on social media and things, which is kind of like you just throwing, you kind of like casting a wide net on social media and hoping that somebody clicks in, and you need to do it because it's something that you should always be doing, having your face out there and people knowing what you're doing. But on Google, you're showing your ads to people who are literally searching to apply for a mortgage. Like, you're showing your face at someone who's searched for getting a mortgage. And better yet, if you're just specifically for first-time buyers or something, you can show your ad to first-time buyers who are searching for a mortgage, and then that's just it's a very good tool in that respect. So that's why I think it's a very good thing. But yeah,
definitely, and I think that's the biggest thing that any mortgage broker going from employed to self-employed, or going from within a firm to setting their own firm up, it's always about lead generation. That is their biggest fear of doing the whole thing. It's not about fear about being a broker, not fear about setting yourself. It's very much around lead generation. So basically Google Ads and running an effective campaign can eliminate a certain amount of that fear, knowing that you've got somebody like yourself that's handling it, looking after it and managing it to its maximum capabilities. So trying to take that fear away is what I'm trying to say. So what's obviously we've sort of, we understand your background a little bit, we understand where you are now in terms of what you're doing. So obviously you're working with brokers, and what's sort of the future look like then for Louis in terms of post uni, I'm guessing, or still like over the next 6 months, and like I said, post uni as well?
Yeah, so post uni, my plan is to go full time into this. Little bit of a risk, but I suppose I'm young, so I can afford it, can't I? So yeah, my plan is to go full time into this straight after uni.
Right.
And then what I really like the idea of, and you touched on it before, was this idea of community and things. I like the idea of, if I want to build this it is a marketing company, but this place where, you know, all the brokers are there and they come and they are a part of this system that can get them leads, but they're all helping each other with complicated cases, building this community where they come to me to get leads, or they come to my business to get leads, but they can also help each other with generating leads, or they can help each other if they've got difficult cases. Trying to create a bit more of a community than just a business that generates brokers leads as well is my idea.
And I think that's perfect, because I think that's the communities. I think that I'm always quite keen to promote. Like, my podcast recently was about a very balanced approach about community in terms of Facebook. I don't think Facebook groups aren't the ideal community they're okay from a criteria point of view, but certainly not from a mindset point of view. But I think that's it. Like, there is a cry out need for the community within mortgage brokers, because you can sort of see that on like LinkedIn, like you say, the messages that I get on LinkedIn, there are communities within WhatsApp groups and things like that as well out there, but really a sort of true community within the mortgage broker space, self-employed mortgage broker space, and the ones that are sole traders, one-man bands and things like that is a real sort of need to help them with not only the criteria, but also a need to help them with their mindset, motivation, and that aspect of it as well. And so if you've got the community with the mindset, Google ads and marketing, lead generation, criteria, and pulling all that together, then I think that's certainly there's a need out there certainly for that within the industry. So good point.
Yeah, just trying to be as helpful and as valuable as possible, I suppose, is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Louis, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast. Thank you for being very open, honest, and it's been great to hear your journey so far. It's great to sort of get a bit more of a face and a conversation behind the posts that I see on social media and that get pumped into my LinkedIn feed constantly. So and the comments that you put on there as well. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on, and thank you for coming to the podcast.
No, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. It's been great. So yeah, thank you very much.
Good, and we'll make sure you're tagged in. Obviously, when this goes out, we'll make sure you're tagged in. So anybody's that sort of thinking about running Google ads, or from a mortgage broker point of view wants to know more, then they can reach out to you and get more of your expertise and knowledge in terms of the Google and Facebook ad space. So, but thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, actually, just touching on that, if I've just made a free course, which should be live by the time this podcast is out. So if you do want to just learn yourself about how to build your own marketing funnel, then I've got a free course that I made in a lecture room with me in a presenting from the slides. It's course.labsmedia.uk/course. Very.
We'll get that. We'll put that within the. We'll get that tagged within the post and the link put in the post. So that's great.
Cool.
Now that's great, because obviously that will help people reach out to you and give you things a bit of free things back in terms of information to help mortgage brokers build their business. So that's great, Louis. Thank you so much for that.
No, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Louis, for being an amazing guest on this week's Mortgage Broker Broadcast. It was great to reach out. It was great to get you onto the podcast. It was great to hear your story so far and also look at the future. And I'm sure the listeners and subscribers will agree. Great guest who is very niche in terms of what he's doing from a Google ad point of view, but niche even that down more with mortgage brokers. So great addition to the industry, and I'm looking forward to seeing him grow and his business grow. As always, any comments, any thoughts, any feedback on the podcast, please leave them wherever you listen to or watch the podcast. If you are thinking about becoming a self-employed mortgage broker, or looking to set up your own firm and mortgage broker brand, or you're looking to accelerate and grow your existing mortgage broker business, reach out and we can have a chat about how I can help you grow and excel your business even further. And as always, don't forget to run your own race.